Some say Square Enix lost its way chasing hits, dropping the ball, and forgetting what made their games legendary. And yeah, they've made some questionable moves, but what if I told you that hidden in plain sight, they've also been releasing some of the best RPGs of the last decade, games that already feel like modern classics. So, things are about to get a little controversial, because we're diving into 10 modern Square Enix RPGs that, despite everything, totally deserve to be called classics. Let's start with one of the cleanest comebacks in JRPG history. Star Ocean 2: The Second Story R isn't just a remake, it's a full-blown resurrection of a game that a lot of fans still call their favorite in the entire series. Originally released on the PlayStation 1 back in the 90s, the game already had a strong cult following. But now, with this HD 2D remake, it feels like it finally got the spotlight it always deserved. Visually, it's stunning. The new art style blends pixel sprites with modern lighting and effects in a way that makes every environment feel alive. And if you're playing it on a Switch OLED or a 4K setup on PlayStation 5, it just pops off the screen. But it's not just a pretty face, the combat's been modernized without losing its real-time charm. Character progression is deep, choices actually matter, and you've got multiple protagonists with branching paths and endings. There's real replay value here, and that's rare in modern remakes. And something that really stands out in this version is the private action system. Every time you enter a town, you can break up your party and explore with each character on their own. Depending on who you talk to and what you've done before, you'll trigger unique interactions that can change how your characters feel about each other, and this system affects way more than just dialogue. It influences character endings, unlocks hidden scenes, even impacts combat bonuses if certain characters get along. And the remake polishes this system in a way that feels way more intuitive than in the original. Whether you're new to the franchise or played the original back in the day, this is hands down the best way to experience Star Ocean 2. It hits that sweet spot between nostalgia and innovation, and honestly, it might be one of the best JRPG remakes ever made.
Your grandfather has mastered the last...
Let's be honest, Dragon Quest XI is the reason a lot of people in the West even know what Dragon Quest is today. It took everything that made the series great and packaged it in a way that felt fresh without losing its roots. The world is massive, the characters are memorable, and the turn-based combat, while traditional, is so polished and addictive that you lose track of time without even noticing. Another thing that really makes Dragon Quest XI stand out is the way it handles its skill panel system. Instead of locking each character into a rigid class, you get a grid filled with branching paths where you spend points earned in battle, and the direction you take actually shapes how each party member plays. Want more damage, support abilities, or elemental spells? It's all there, and it's totally up to you. Some upgrades even stay hidden until you unlock nearby skills, which adds a cool layer of experimentation. It's simple on the surface, but there's real depth if you decide to dig in. Plus, you can reset your points later on if you feel like switching things up, which keeps your options open throughout the game. When it first dropped in Japan, it came out on the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo 3DS. The handheld version stayed exclusive over there, but the PS4 release eventually made its way worldwide, followed by a PC version. Then came the S Edition, originally built for the Nintendo Switch, which added full voice acting, quality of life upgrades, and new story content. That version later expanded to PS4 and Xbox, bringing the definitive experience to pretty much everyone.
So you've come at last, Hikari.
Let's talk about Octopath Traveler 1 and 2. These games might look like old-school RPGs at first glance, but don't let the retro style fool you. They're packed with modern polish, deep mechanics, and some of the most beautiful HD 2D visuals you'll see anywhere. That mix of pixel art and dynamic lighting makes every town, every battle, every single moment feel like a painting in motion. Both games take a unique approach to storytelling. Instead of following just one hero, You start with a group of travelers, each with their own personal journey. As you progress, their stories begin to connect in ways that keep you invested the whole way through. It's smart, emotional, and gives the world a real sense of scale and depth. One system that really sets Octopath apart is the path actions. Each character has their own unique way of interacting with the world and NPCs, and it completely changes how you explore towns and solve side quests. One traveler might challenge townspeople to duels, while another can bribe them for secrets or lure them into battle. You can steal rare items, gather hidden info, even recruit townsfolk to fight alongside you. What makes it so cool is how organic it feels. Instead of just walking from point A to B, you're constantly thinking about which character to use in each situation. And in the second game, these interactions get even deeper, with more consequences and fun ways to approach the same challenge from totally different angles. Octopath Traveler 1 started as a Switch exclusive, but it eventually made its way to Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. The second game launched on multiple platforms right away and expanded everything with better pacing, more interaction between characters, and new systems that refine the experience across the board. If you're into turn-based combat, these games are a dream. Each character has a unique class and skills, and the break and boost system keeps every fight strategic and satisfying. You can't just spam attacks and hope for the best. You need to plan every move, time your boosts, and exploit weaknesses. And when it all clicks, it's insanely rewarding. Today, both games are available on Xbox Game Pass, which means there's no excuse not to give them a shot if you're subscribed.
You know what to do.
Let's go!
Back in 2017, something unexpected happened. Square Enix dropped a game that felt less like a sequel and more like a resurrection. Nier Automata hit the shelves and instantly rewrote what people thought was possible in an action RPG, and the mastermind behind it is Yoko Taro. With help from Platinum Games, he finally had the team to match his wild, layered storytelling with top-tier gameplay. Nier Automata isn't just stylish, it's philosophical, emotional, and brutal in all the right ways. The combat is buttery smooth thanks to Platinum's signature touch, but it's the way the game messes with your expectations that really sticks with you. It breaks the fourth wall, flips mechanics on their head, and throws you into a narrative that gets heavier the deeper you go. Not just one ending, but multiple storylines that all blend together into something bigger, something powerful. Something a lot of people miss on their first run is how Nier Automata plays with genre without ever warning you. 1 second, you're slicing through robots in a slick hack-and-slash sequence, and the next, you're in a bullet hell shoot-'em-up or a side-scrolling platformer. But what's wild is how seamless these shifts feel. They're not gimmicks. They're baked into the design, and they reflect what the characters are going through. Even the camera work changes constantly, locking you into overhead views during hacking segments or pulling way back to show the scale of certain fights. Everything about how the game controls, looks, and sounds is tied to the emotional weight of the moment you're in. And you don't need to play the original Nier or even Drakengard to get into this one. Automata stands on its own, but once you're in, chances are you'll want to explore the whole rabbit hole. And yeah, the earlier games were rough around the edges, small budgets, weird mechanics, but the ideas were always brilliant. But Nier Automata gave those ideas the spotlight they deserved. And honestly, if you've never touched it, this might be the one game on this list you need to fix that with.
Plant life has claimed most of the central area. Big plants, too.
Report. Records show that vegetation
When Kingdom Hearts 3 finally dropped, it felt like the end of a myth. People waited over a decade for it. Not spin-offs, not mobile prequels, but an actual continuation of what started back in Kingdom Hearts 2. The wait was wild, expectations even worse, but somehow, this game managed to deliver something special. It's not perfect. The pacing is messy in places, and if you're new to the series, the story will absolutely make your head spin. But if you've been following Sora, Riku, and Kairi for years, this is the kind of payoff that hits hard. The combat is fast, stylish, and flashy as hell. You're not just mashing buttons, you're flying through the air, chaining combos, summoning Disney attractions mid-battle. It's chaotic in the best way, and visually, it's pure magic. The art direction makes every world feel like you stepped into a Disney movie. And playing it today on modern hardware like PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series makes a big difference. Higher resolution, smoother frame rate, faster loading. It all adds up. Another thing worth pointing out is how the game handles Keyblade transformations. Each Keyblade you collect comes with its own unique transformation that completely shifts how you fight. Some turn into giant hammers, others become twin yo-yos, or even ranged weapons like bows. Each form has its own moveset, finishers, and strategic use depending on the enemy or situation. You can also equip multiple Keyblades and swap between them mid-combo, which adds another layer of depth to the combat. It rewards experimentation and lets you customize your playstyle without diving into complex menus or grinding for hours. Kingdom Hearts 3 closes out the Xehanort saga, tying together years of storytelling with a final act that's both massive and emotional. If you've grown up with this series, it's a roller coaster. And if you haven't, it's still one of the most visually stunning and creative action RPGs out there. This one proves that even after all these years, Tetsuya Nomura hasn't lost his touch. Hey, quick pause. If you're enjoying the video so far, smash that like button. It takes half a second and helps more than you think. But real talk, it's the comments that make the biggest difference. Tell me which modern Square Enix game surprised you the most, or just scream "I slept on this" in all caps. I read and reply to every single one. And if you're not subscribed yet, don't ghost me. Hit that sub button and stick around. We've got way more RPG magic coming your way.
Well.
Romancing Saga 2: Revenge of the Seven dropped in 2024 as a full remake of the original title from way back in 1993, which originally came out on the Super Famicom. For years, most of the Saga series stayed stuck in Japan, almost like a secret club. But now, little by little, these games are finally breaking out worldwide, and this remake is the perfect way in. Revenge of the Seven gives the classic turn-based formula a fresh coat of paint, with modern visuals, smoother mechanics, and quality-of-life updates that actually make a difference. It respects the original design, but doesn't shy away from refining it where it matters. You're still getting that old-school vibe, but without all the clunk that usually comes with it. Instead of following one hero through a single journey, you actually build a legacy over time. Your characters grow old, pass on, and a new generation takes over, sometimes with different stats, abilities, or even traits depending on your previous choices. And it's not just cosmetic either. Every decision you make shapes the future of your empire, from who inherits the throne to how your kingdom evolves. This adds a long-term layer of strategy that most JRPGs don't even touch. This game also lets you shape your party in really creative ways, and it doesn't hold your hand too much, which is rare nowadays. It rewards experimentation and smart planning, and once it clicks, it's hard to stop playing. Whether you're on PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, or PC, this is the kind of remake that shows how to bring a classic to new players without losing its soul. It didn't blow up like other big releases in 2024, but those who gave it a shot were hit with that same feeling we used to get playing Super Nintendo RPGs for the first time.
Ready yourselves!
Back in 2021, something happened that most people had already given up on. Square Enix dropped a sequel to one of the most underrated and unique RPGs out there. Neo: The World Ends With You isn't just a continuation of a cult classic from the Nintendo DS era. It's a full-on evolution. The original game stood out for doing things differently. It mixed real-time battles with rhythm mechanics, threw players into a stylish version of Shibuya, and hit hard with a soundtrack that blended J-rock, J-pop, and Japanese hip-hop. Neo took that same bold energy and brought it into the modern era. Bigger world, smoother combat, and a revamped art style that still kept that streetwear meets anime aesthetic. and the music is just insane. Every track hits like a punch to the chest, in the best way. This game connects directly to the events of the first one, but even if you never touch the DS version, you'll still be hooked by how slick and stylish it is. It landed on PlayStation, Switch, and PC, but flew under the radar for most people. Maybe it didn't break sales records, but creatively, it goes all out. The combat system is fast and flashy, letting you control a squad of characters each tied to different input commands. Once you get into the groove, the fights feel more like choreography than button mashing. Instead of traditional weapons or magic, your characters equip pins, each representing a unique ability or attack, and every pin is mapped to a different button or input. You can mix and match up to 6 at a time across your party, which opens the door for some crazy synergy between effects. Some pins fire projectiles, others control time, create area damage, or heal your squad. The variety is wild, and since pins level up, evolve, and even fuse into new abilities, there's a constant sense of progression. Neo: The World Ends With You deserved way more love than it got, as it's a rare case of a sequel that respects its roots but isn't afraid to go wild and reinvent itself. If Square ever decides to greenlight a third one, they'll have something truly special in their hands again.
Is that dry land I see?
Let's go.
Let's be real. When Square Enix first announced they were remaking Final Fantasy VII, most people didn't believe it would actually happen. And when it finally did, no one expected it to be this bold. Final Fantasy VII Remake isn't just a prettier version of the original. It takes the core story and reshapes it into something new, deeper, and honestly, more emotional in a lot of ways. It keeps the heart of what made the 1997 game special, but presents it through a modern lens, with cinematic storytelling, real-time combat, and character development that hits harder than ever. Then came Rebirth. The second chapter of this trilogy took everything the remake built and cranked it up. It gave players one of the most expansive and alive open worlds the franchise has ever seen. Exploring iconic places like Junon and Costa del Sol doesn't feel like nostalgia bait. It feels like finally stepping into the world the original game could only hint at. The combat is faster, tighter, and more flexible, making every battle feel like you're directing a Final Fantasy movie in real time. The connection between these two games is essential as one sets the stage and the other explodes it wide open. And while we still don't know exactly how the trilogy will end, what we've seen so far has already cemented Remake and Rebirth as modern RPG giants. Still, it's impossible to ignore how the story changes have split the fanbase. For some, the shift from a faithful retelling to a meta-narrative about fate and alternate timelines felt like a betrayal of what made the original so powerful. The emotional beats are still there, but they land differently now, especially for players who grew up with the 1997 classic. Characters make different choices, events play out in unexpected ways, and that unpredictability, while exciting, also created frustration for fans hoping for a one-to-one remake. But personally, I think it's too early to call it a mistake. We're only 2/3 of the way through the story, and the payoff could tie everything together in a way that makes these risks feel justified. Sometimes the middle act of a story feels chaotic on purpose, and with the final chapter still ahead, it's worth holding out before making final judgments.
You okay, Hina? The boat's pitching.
Visions of Mana dropped in 2024, and for longtime fans, it felt like a miracle. After more than a decade without a brand new entry, the series finally got a fresh chapter instead of just another remake or remaster. And yeah, the wait was worth it. The game hit all major platforms like PS4, PS5, Xbox, and PC. That alone was a big deal, especially since it marked the first time the Mana series showed up on a Microsoft console, and they didn't hold back either. Original devs from the classic games were brought back, and you can feel that legacy in every corner of the game. Visions of Mana delivers a colorful, fast-paced action RPG experience. The world is vibrant, The characters are charming, and the combat feels tight without being overwhelming. The game runs beautifully too, especially on next-gen systems like the PS5 or Xbox series. Smooth frame rates, high resolution, and a world that just pulls you in. One of the coolest systems and visions of Mana is how it handles elemental spirits, known as elementals. Throughout the game, you collect these beings tied to different elements like fire, water, wind, and more. But they're not just there for show, they directly affect how your characters fight. When you assign an elemental to a party member, it changes their class and completely transforms their abilities. This lets you mix and match builds in a way that keeps combat feeling fresh the whole way through. It also encourages you to experiment, since some combinations are better for crowd control, others boost healing, and a few are just pure damage dealers. And the best part is that the system doesn't punish you for trying new things. You can swap elementals at key points, so it never locks you into a boring setup. Even with solid marketing, it kind of flew under the radar for a lot of people. But that just makes it one of those hidden gems waiting to be rediscovered. Nowadays, you can probably grab it at a discount, and honestly, it's one of the most accessible entries in the series.
Leave all to me.
Bravely Default might not be brand new, but it still hits like a truck. The original came out back in 2012 on the Nintendo 3DS, and for a lot of people, it felt like Square Enix was finally going back to its roots. Turn-based battles, job systems, a world-saving quest with that classic JRPG flavor, it had everything that made those old-school titles special, but with just enough modern polish to keep things fresh. Now, it's making a comeback with a full remaster for the Nintendo Switch 2, and yeah, there's a good chance it'll hit other platforms later on. But this release is more than just a nostalgia trip. It's a second chance for a whole new generation of players to finally experience what made Bravely Default so special in the first place. It's challenging, sometimes brutal, and demands smart strategies, especially with the job system that lets you mix and match roles in wild ways. One of the coolest mechanics that really sets Bravely Default apart is its Brave and Default system in combat. It sounds simple, but it completely changes how you approach every battle. Instead of just attacking each turn, you can default to defend and store up actions, or Brave to spend multiple actions at once. This lets you stack attacks, unleash devastating combos, or pull off clutch heals and buffs right when you need them. But here's the catch. If you go all in and the enemy survives, you're left wide open for several turns. It forces you to read the fight, think ahead, and find the perfect moment to go all out, and once it clicks, it becomes one of the most satisfying turn-based systems you'll ever play. And even after sequels like Bravely Second and Bravely Default 2, there's something about the original that just stands out. The pacing, the charm, the insane plot twists, it all just works. If you're into classic RPGs with a modern twist, this one's a must-play. All right, your turn. Which modern Square Enix game you think deserves instant classic status? Drop it in the comments. I'm always there reading and replying. And hey, if you enjoyed the ride, hit that like button and subscribe for more RPG deep dives coming your way. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.